The rulebook for employment tribunals has changed, and it is going to have a really big impact, but probably not in the way that you think. So if you've watched any of my videos, you probably know about what I call the rulebook. Its official name is the Employment Tribunal Rules of Procedure 2013. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it is a super important and useful document for anyone who is taking a claim to tribunal because it lays out the rules of interaction between the different parties, and more importantly, it is the rules that you can fall back on if the other party is not fulfilling their obligations or if they're not playing fair. So for example, if your employer that you are taking to tribunal isn't responding on time, if they're not meeting the deadlines, if they are concealing information you believe, or anything like that, this is the rulebook that you go back to. The rules are changing, but not actually about any of that. This update that the Tribunal Service has released is much more about another big problem going on in the service, which is the massive case backlog. So if you have interacted with the Court and Tribunal Service in any way, you will know that the backlog is a massive problem and is especially bad in certain parts of the UK where you could wait for over a year to get a hearing scheduled. And fundamentally, a lot of this is down to staff availability. Who is working in the courts, how much can they process, how many decisions have to be made by how many people. One of the big changes in this updated rulebook is giving some of the decisions that were reserved only for judges and giving those decisions to what's called legal officers. So these are people who still report into the judges, and their decisions, if requested, can be checked by a judge, but it means that those decisions can be opened out to a wider pool of people, hopefully loosening up this backlog. They've also allowed for the digitization of some services, some approvals, again with the idea of modernizing the tribunal and streamlining some of these processes. And while they were there, they took the opportunity to clarify some things that were a little bit ambiguous, tightened up the language, and just tried to make the whole thing a little bit easier to understand for all of us. So if you are in the tribunal process right now, the biggest impact that this rule change is going to have on you is probably just that everything has moved around a little bit in the document. So for example, section 12 is now section 13, things like that. So if you're referencing a certain section of the tribunal rules of procedure, you might want to double check that reference with the new 2024 document to still see if you're referencing the right place. With that said, I did actually contact the president of the Employment Tribunal to double check what would happen if you accidentally referenced the wrong document, because these new rules came into effect as of 6th January 2025. The tribunal president assured me that if you make a mistake, they're not going to throw your application out or anything like that. They know that these changes will take a little bit of time to trickle through for everyone. So don't worry if you have submitted something and you think that it could be that you're still waiting to hear or something will go wrong because you submitted against the old rulebook. They definitely won't do that. It's definitely worth getting a copy of the new rulebook. We've got this all written up on our website and the link will be in the usual place. But hopefully this just means that some of those background changes will make a big difference for us in terms of cases getting through and your own waiting times. But in terms of the day-to-day rules that you need to know about, those really fundamentally haven't changed.